Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to today's video. Happy bank holiday, hope you're doing very well. So today I'm not doing a makeup video. As you can see, I've already got makeup on my face. I wanted to do a top 10 list, so if you could probably tell by the title, I'm doing my top 10 favourite superhero films of all time. So I got this suggestion from one of my friends, so she was like, just do a list of your favourite superhero films, and I thought, yeah, why not? I mean, if you guys don't know much about like me or my history, I used to work in a comic book shop for like 8 years. I've been a big comic book fan for about 15 years now. I do read a lot of like Marvel, DC, the whole typical stuff. Haven't read anything recently because I guess because I don't work in the shop anymore, I don't really caught up with the newer stuff. There is like Fantastic Four that I keep up with, but I mean, yeah, to cut a long story short, I haven't read anything new in a while. But when it comes to movies, I'm always on top of the movies. So yeah, this list is going to be quite different. I mean, because a lot of people are probably going to expect like just pure Marvel and DC, but it's like a mixture of things. And looking at my list, because I had to write it all down, I'm not just the kind of person that just goes boom, boom, boom. I had to think very long and hard about this list because I have watched a lot of superhero films and what casts as a superhero film, and it was quite difficult to try and narrow it down to a top 10, but I've got it and I'm ready. So we're going to start off with number 10, which is going to be a strange one for people to realise, but it's basically the first two Fantastic Four movies. Now, if you know about, I've probably mentioned it a couple of times, but Fantastic Four are like my favourite superheroes. They're like my favourite Marvel characters. And yeah, the first two films, the ones with Chris Evans as Johnny, as Johnny and Johnny Storm basically. And yeah, it's a bit strange because when I first heard that he was going to be Captain America, I was like, hang on a second, they're going to have two characters from the same universe in like one character playing both of them. But what I didn't realise at the time when I was much younger was that obviously Fox owned Fantastic Four and Captain America was owned by Marvel, still is obviously. But yeah, I just found it super strange. But I think Chris Evans is a fantastic Johnny. And I mean, Jessica Alba, kind of out of that aspect, she's good. She's a decent actress. I mean, she's really good in the Sin City movies. But her as Sue was pretty poor, to be honest. Like, that wig is terrible. But yeah, I think the movies themselves are just really fun. And when you compare it to the last one that came out, that was probably one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my whole life. If I ever do my worst films of all time, that'll be right in the list, because it is pretty poor. But when you look at the first two, they're just a lot of fun. And with superhero movies, a lot of them you can't take too seriously because in the comics themselves, they're not actually that serious as well. And this list will, because a lot of the movies I'm going to be talking about, there's going to be a couple like in one number because I can't choose which one I prefer. And I really enjoy Silver Surfer as well. I think the whole Galactus thing was rubbish. Like, Galactus is pretty much one of my favourite villains in the kind of like comic books, and he was just a cloud in that movie, so that's a couple of things I'm not too fond of. But the films are just fun. They're just fun action. They just don't take themselves too seriously, which I think a lot of like superhero films do now. But yeah, the first two Fantastic Four movies, the second one is actually on Disney Plus. So if you haven't seen it, just watch it with like an open mind. It's just a lot of fun. And yeah, the cast work off really well together, and yeah, it's great. I love it. And then number 9 is going to be the first Iron Man movie. I remember when that first came out, I was working in a cinema at the time and it had just come out. And I think I must have watched it at least 10 times. Because obviously sometimes you didn't know, if you work in a cinema, you get to watch films for free, basically. And I think I got to a point where I was enjoying it so much that I literally was just watching it, like, even if I was just watching little bits here and there, I was obsessed with watching it. And then when I bought it on DVD, I used to watch it a lot. I've got this really amazing box set edition where it's the mask that you can, like the helmet basically, that you open it up and it's got like the 2 discs. It's pretty amazing. I like buying little collectibles like that as well. But yeah, the movie itself, like, you know, I like Robert Downey Jr. I think he's a great actor. I prefer a lot of his earlier movies, kind of like Chaplin, and then when you think about Natural Born Killers as well, I think he's amazing in those movies. And obviously Iron Man was like his kind of resurrection back into movies, which is amazing because he is a perfect Tony Stark. I know people have been saying it for the past like 10 years, but it's true. Like, he does such a great like character play. He does such a good job playing that role, because a lot of it is probably like himself as well, this whole cocky kind of I love myself a little bit, etc. But yeah, the whole movie itself, like, it's got Jeff Bridges in it, who is one of my favourite actors of all time. He's amazing. But yeah, the film just flows amazingly. The cast is great, like Gwyneth Paltrow is pretty good. Yeah, so yeah, that was my number 9, and we're going on to my number 8, and this is when people are probably going to get very confused, or probably just a bit like wondering if I'm even a superhero fan, because having a film like this so high up in the list is sacrilege. But my number 8 is a joint, and it's Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. So the reason why I'm choosing those 2 movies together is because I both love them a lot. But people are probably going to hate me, but yeah, Dark Knight is one of the most amazing films ever made. Is it my favourite superhero film of all time? No. Do I like Heath Ledger as a Joker? Yes. But I prefer Jack Nicholson, and I don't care what people have to say about that. I'll be talking more about his Joker a bit later on. Spoilers. But yeah, when you think about this kind of era of superhero films, like Batman Begins really like threw it out of the park. Like, it is just a beautifully shot movie, and it is just the kind of, it's what you wanted in a Batman movie, because all the earlier ones were all kind of, they were dark, they were kind of not as much of an origin story as this one. You get to know Bruce a bit more, and you get to see him kind of turn into Batman, which I think is amazing. Because when you look at like the early Tim Burton ones, he is already Batman basically, and you don't have that kind of feel of him growing to become Batman. But then yeah, I just love those 2 movies. Dark Knight Rises is decent. I don't think it's that good. I think when I went to the cinema to see it, I was so hyped up because obviously it was the 3rd one. The first 2 were just amazing, groundbreaking. Christopher Nolan is a fantastic director. A lot of his movies are just masterpieces basically. And it is the same with Dark Knight as well. Like, I'm not saying I don't like it. I absolutely would never say that, because it is a truly amazing film. But when it comes to my list and my choice of like superhero films, it's not always up there. And you know, I really, yeah, not much I can say really, because everyone for the past, I don't know how long it's been out, but not even, maybe 10 years? No, not even 10 years. But yeah, whatever people have said about it, they've said it, so I don't really need to add anything else apart from I really like it and it's in my top 10. So yeah, let's come on to number 7, which is what people might not expect. Some people might not have heard of this film, but trust me, it is fantastic. It's a movie called Mystery Men, and it is technically a superhero film because it's about a bunch of wannabe superheroes. Some of them have powers, some have, you know, kind of, you know, not powers, but like things that have powers. And it's essentially, it's a comedy, but it is just such a great film. And I remember growing up watching it, and the whole cast is amazing. It's got like Ben Stiller in it. It's got William H. Macy. It's got Hank Azaria, the guy who does a lot of the voices in The Simpsons. It's got Tom Waits in it. So I was like super happy when I kind of discovered his music, because I'd watched the films before and I was like, it's the same guy, this is amazing. But yeah, like Mystery Men is just so funny. It is just the weirdest. It's about a bunch of guys who kind of come together and they're losers, and people don't believe that they're superheroes, but they want to be superheroes. And one of my favorite scenes in the whole film is when they're doing tryouts for like superheroes, and you get all these kind of like, I'm Waffle Man and I bash people in the head with this waffle with this waffle maker, and he like burns them and all that really stupid stuff. But it's just like a superhero film that just doesn't take itself too seriously, but it's a great film, and it's really kind of really well made. Like there's the sets are amazing. It reminds me of like the whole Gotham kind of look, because it's quite dark and there's lots of like bright lights everywhere. Eddie Izzard's in it as well, which is crazy because I never really knew he was an actor until I kind of watched him in that. I know he's a stand-up, but I never knew he did film. But yeah, he's amazing in that movie. And yeah, if you haven't checked it out, please do. I don't think it's on any streaming sites, unless maybe it's on Netflix, I'm not sure, or Amazon, I don't know. I just own it on DVD. I might have to try and find a Blu-ray version if they've ever released it. But if you have seen Mystery Men, let me know what you think of it in the comments, because it's such a very like hit and miss movie, because it's not a big cinematic universe movie, but it's still so much fun, and it's a superhero film. So we're going on to number 6, and yeah, it's the first X-Men movie by Bryan Singer, excusing him, but that movie is amazing. I remember when I first watched it, I think my dad, like someone in my family, got us like a pirate copy, because I never used to go to the cinema that lot when I was younger. Well, a lot of times I did, but there were times when I just didn't go. But I did see it in the cinema, I think, after I had seen like a pirate copy of it. But yeah, it's just a fantastic movie. I grew up watching it. I grew up watching Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, who is amazing in it, and I think then he was quite an unknown guy compared to what he is now. And I remember when you first see him on screen, he's in that cage fight, and I was like, oh my god, this guy, like, he looks amazing, like so well built up. And I'm not just saying he's hot, but I'm just saying you could just tell that he has a really kind of, he works and he knows the mannerisms of Wolverine / Logan. Yeah, the whole movie is like great. It's action packed, and like each character I think is played off really well. I always feel like Scott Summers just had the loose end of the stick. In the comics and like the TV show, he's like the leader, and then in the films he just is not that at all, to be honest. He just gets overshadowed by Wolverine. But yeah, the film itself I think is amazing. Again, a lot of these movies are quite old, so what's been said about them has been said. I really like X-Men 2 as well. Everything after that, not including like the Michael Fassbender and the James McAvoy ones. Those ones I do like. But the kind of like Last Stand, that was a pile of rubbish. That was so bad. But yeah, X-Men 2 is amazing. Like the whole kind of bringing more characters and a lot of, you know, just side characters from the comics and everything, which is amazing. I love those first 2 movies. Yeah, and then going on to number 5, we have one of my old school favourites, which is Spider-Man 2. And when you say old school, it's really weird because there's been 2 kind of remakes, which is so weird because I don't even feel like those Spider-Man movies are old at all, but they probably are. They're definitely older, like older than 10 years. But yeah, though, like, I love Spider-Man 2. I've always preferred it over the first one, just because like Dr. Octopus is such a like perfect villain in that movie. I just think Sam Raimi is such an amazing director. I grew up watching like Evil Dead, stuff like that, and you know, kind of making the Spider-Man movies was very strange like turn for like a director who makes a lot of horror, but he did so well. I love yeah, Spider-Man 2 is just so fun. I always like go back to it if I ever want to watch like a really damn good superhero movie. It's just, yeah, it's so good. I don't know if that song Hero, you know, by Chad Kroeger and whatever other people, I think that might have been for the first Spider-Man, I can't remember, but that's a tune. And yeah, Spider-Man, I love those movies. Number 3, I watch it if I'm like feeling like rubbish and I just want to laugh because it's so bad, even though I'd rather watch something like Batman and Robin, because that one is a bit more stupid compared to Spider-Man 3, but don't worry, that's not in my list. But yeah, so Spider-Man 2 is my number 5, and then we're going on to number 4, which is part of the MCU, so a lot of people will be happy. It's Guardians of the Galaxy. It is so much fun, it's great. I don't know what else can really be said about it. It's just the music is fantastic. I don't really like number 2 as much. I mean, the fact that Kurt Russell's in it, like, that's one of the only like redeeming things about it. Like, Kurt Russell is just one of the most amazing actors, one of my favourite actors in the whole world. But when I saw that he was in number 2, I was like, yes, I was even more excited. But when you look at number 1, I think it just flows so much more easier. When you meet all the characters, they all just kind of bond so well together. And I think when it got to like the second one, they were trying to kind of overcompensate for what was right in the first one, like all the jokes and this and this and that. It just kind of trailed off too much. But I'm talking about the first one right now because obviously this is my favourites list and not my hating list. But yeah, I think like Chris Pratt is great, Zoe Saldana is amazing. Yeah, I just found it so strange that Bradley Cooper does the voice of Rocket, and I was like, he sounds absolutely nothing like he does in real life, and I guess that's the whole point of a voice actor. But yeah, I really enjoy Guardians. I know a lot of people will probably be quite weirded out to say that I think it's better than Dark Knight. I'm not saying it is better than Dark Knight, I'm just saying it's a very kind of different spectrum. But yeah, I love, you know, I just love the movies, it's great. No, we're getting closer to my number 1 now, so my number 3 is Captain America Winter Soldier, because it's so damn good. I remember when I went to see it in the cinema and I wasn't too sure about it, but then when I got it on Blu-ray and watched it at home, in the comfort of my own home, I was just blown away. I think the way that movie is just, it flows is fantastic. I think it is just a little bit long, but I think that's with all superhero movies now. They are just like almost 3 hours long. Turning into Star Wars movies, they're like 3 hours long as well. But yeah, they just, the way that, like I said, kind of when I heard that Chris Evans was going to be Captain America, I was a bit like, this is a very strange like choice, but he is an amazing Captain America. I think he's fantastic, especially in the elevator scene, like the iconic elevator scene where they're trying to take him down and he's just like, bring it. He just like annihilates everyone in that elevator. It's amazing. It's a fantastic scene, and I love that the way that they bring in Falcon, and the way that they have Bucky just trying to like remember everything. And I kind of offshore, I'm really like thinking about it now, how, you know, and MCU, no, the way the kind of like Civil War kind of comes into it as well, and it's the kind of like the following of it. So I think the way that the MCU has worked, like it flows so well when it comes to like, you know, the origin movies, and then it comes to like the sequels, and then they blend into like Endgame and stuff like that, which I think is fantastic. I don't know why I'm talking about that, but I just like the way that they flow, because obviously when you've got Winter Soldier and then it moves into Civil War, I just like the way that that they blend in. Well done, Marvel, you did good. See what happens in the next kind of set, because I just don't know that they probably won't be as good, but I'm still obviously going to watch them because films, yay. We're coming to number 2, and this is me growing up with superhero films, being obsessed with this character. So it is Batman and / Batman Returns, which is the Tim Burton version. These are just amazing movies. I grew up watching the first Batman and just being like, what the hell is this? This is amazing. It's like a guy in a suit and it's so dark and gothic, like just beautiful. This is how I kind of merge my whole like goth love because of those movies, is because everything, I know Gotham is really kind of like dark and depressing, but I think Tim Burton just brought his style to it and just kind of make it look just fantastic. And obviously with like number 2, like Batman Returns as well, when you get, you know, Catwoman, Michelle Pfeiffer's just like perfect, Danny DeVito is amazing as Penguin. But then when, again, like earlier I mentioned about Jack Nicholson being my favourite Joker, it's just because, yeah, he is insane and mad, but he kind of like has that gangster feel about it, which I really love, which is obviously what the Joker is. Not you, Jared Leto, but kind of the yeah, what Jack Nicholson like brought to the character. And you know, Heath Ledger does that very well as well. But for me, I grew up watching that one and it just means more to me. And I absolutely love Michael Keaton as Batman. I wish that he kind of did, you know, the whole Dark Knight Returns thing, which is like the comic where he's like old and just like has little like another Robin kind of join, like Kerry Kelly and stuff like that. I would have loved like for Michael Keaton to have done that, but I guess now is probably not the right time anymore. But anyway, yeah, just those two movies are just perfect, and they are kind of like my staple favorite superhero films. But when it comes to my number one, because I've been talking for like 20 minutes and I know you guys are probably quite bored, but this is, a lot of people are probably not going to agree with me, but I don't care. This is what I'm saying, this is my list. And this movie I have always been so obsessed with, and the comic, ever since I found it, it became so important to me. And my number one is Watchmen. Yes, it is my favourite superhero film of all time, and it's also my favourite comic of all time. When this movie came out, I've seen it in the cinema like 6 or 7 times. I own every version of it. Like there's the cinematic version, because I have a really cool you know, like the Iron Man one I mentioned, I've got one with Rorschach, I've got one with Dr. Manhattan, that's the Blu-ray edition, which is pretty cool. You just like lift their heads up and it's got like the discs in there. But yeah, that movie is just amazing. There are some bits I don't like about it, and there's some actors in there which I feel do not work really well, but the movie itself is so close to the comic. I don't understand when people like, oh, it's the most, you know, the most difficult film to ever make and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, it's, you know, when you look at the comic and then you look at the film, there's so many aspects which are super close to it, and it does follow it very religiously. There's only just like one scene when, if you haven't read the comic, I mean, please read it. It's life-changing. But at the end, there's like the squid that kind of is the bomb basically, but they don't have that in the film. And I thought that was a good choice to make, to not have a squid like, you know, mess up the world when you use Dr. Manhattan instead. That is good. I mean, I know it's a superhero film and nothing is always, you know, what it should be normally, etc. But then, you know, the movie itself is beautiful. You know, the way that they make Rorschach's mask, you know, I like Zack Snyder as a director. I think he's quite decent. I don't like Sucker Punch 300. I like it's not up there for me. The Justice League movies are shit. Sorry to say that, but they are shit. But Watchmen, oh my god, it is amazing. Jeffrey Dean Morgan as the comedian is perfect casting. He is fantastic in it, and I didn't realise how kind of young he is compared to like what he is now, like when, because he's in The Walking Dead now and he looks so much older, but then when he was playing the comedian, I know there's like lots of makeup and stuff because he's quite an older character in the whole Watchmen section, but he's fantastic. It's an amazing movie. I don't care if you don't like it, that's not my problem. I love it, I'm obsessed with it, and I always will, and I always give it a watch every time I just really want to enjoy a film, because Watchmen is amazing. But yeah, that is my top 10 favourite superhero films of all time. Please let me know what your favourite superhero film is, what ones you like, which ones you dislike. Yeah, please like and subscribe, because I've gained a few followers recently, so that's pretty cool. Thank you so much for your support. See you guys very soon. Take care. Bye.